My name's Fiona Kolontari. I'm the head of Student Support and Wellbeing, Inclusion and Disability at University College London, and I'm also a director of the National Association of Disability Practitioners. I have ADHD and dyspraxia, and I'm also part of a family where neurodiversity is very much the norm. I think probably the most powerful anecdote was listening to Joanna Hastewell talk about her experiences at school, actually, and the fact that education was done to her rather than with her. I think that really resonated. So I think about my own experiences at school. I guess I was fortunate in that I had some really compassionate, wonderful teachers at various times, but at other times not so much. And I look back in fondness and I can see that actually some of them did things intuitively to include me. So, for example, I had a teacher that realised that I'm quite creative, and in the afternoons my concentration had perhaps waned, and I needed a change of scene, and she would let me go to the pottery room and wash glue pots or construct things. And I was just really happy to be out of that space and out of the sensory overload, and just in a place where I could indulge that creative space in my brain. And I don't think either of us had a name for what I was experiencing, but we both knew I needed it, and that need being met intuitively was brilliant. And again, I think about when I was at college, I studied fashion for a while. I went on to do an undergraduate in fashion, but I dropped out because I very quickly realised I was going to end up sewing my fingers together. I didn't know at the time I've got dyspraxia. And I just think about when I was at college, I had somebody who's helping me prepare my work for a final year fashion show, and they could see I was going to iron my fingers, so they're like, "Oh, you're going to ruin your garment, I'll do it for you." And I just think, actually none of us had the vocabulary at that time. If people were more aware, there were opportunities there that both of us could have gained for. But I'm really grateful to those people, because the other side of it is I had teachers who were really oppressive. I spent most English lessons on the stairs, being sent out for talking, or and I was bored. I got an A in English. I didn't. The lesson could have been in 10 minutes rather than dragged out over an hour. And I just think about the oppression, and I got called racist names and things like that. And I just think about how that was such a different experience. And I think about what we do to children, because I've got I've got I've got a 19-year-old who's about to go to university. I've got an 8-year-old. Both of them have got neurodiverse traits like everybody else in my family. And what Joanna was saying about people did these things, but nobody asked me what I needed. Nobody asked me what I wanted. There's a huge epistemic injustice that happens to young people. Actually, people quite often. They don't necessarily have fancy vocabulary. They don't necessarily know that they're experiencing ADHD or some sort of neurodiversity, but they quite often will tell you what they need in order to thrive. And I think we need to get better at listening as educators, and I think we need to create a culture where it's actually okay for somebody to be, the lecturer in charge of something or the head of a programme, but actually to have the humility to ask our learners, well, what is it that works for you? I genuinely think that there's a need for more events like this and on this theme as well, and probably engaging with a range of stakeholders. So I really like the fact that this was open and that you created very successfully a safe space, and that you didn't have a rigidly controlled agenda. But I think actually an event like this where you target academics actually would be really interesting, and the students that they teach as well. People have stopped me on the way to the room to just talk to me, and I think people needed this opportunity to talk about what they've been experiencing, and actually this, the aim of the event was to amplify voices, and I think you've done a really good job of it, actually.